The most painful moments aren't the arguments. It's when you clearly have something to say but can only grit your teeth and keep quiet. Have you ever felt that way? Many times the words are already on the tip of your tongue, but you worry that speaking up will start a fight, so you swallow them. In the moment it feels right to hold back, but afterward your chest feels even tighter, and you even start feeling resentment when you see the other person. Other times we can't hold it in anymore and blurt out everything in our hearts. It feels good for a second, but it ends with the relationship breaking apart, and then we regret it. So many people choose silence, believing that swallowing it is the best solution. But here's the problem. Holding it in only hurts you. Speaking up can hurt the relationship. So what should we do? Is there a way to say what's in your heart and still protect the relationship? Today, I'm going to give you the answer. Psychology and communication research show that if you master one core principle plus 4 specific language techniques, you can speak without bottling yourself up and without hurting others. Once you learn this, you won't have to suppress yourself, and you won't regret speaking out of impulse. In fact, you'll find that when you speak your truth, the other person doesn't get angry. Sometimes they nod and say, "I'm glad you told me." The relationship becomes closer, not colder. So stick with me to the end if you want to learn this way of communicating, or raise your level of understanding. Please remember to subscribe and like. This is HL Whispers. We're here to help you accumulate wisdom in small moments and grow through life's experiences. Why do we argue? Most people say, "I was just trying to talk normally. They were too sensitive." Sometimes I wonder if I'm wrong, but in the end, I still feel like they're the problem. But psychologists tell us the root of conflict isn't what you said. It's how you said it. The tone and the way you open a conversation determine 80% of the outcome. 3 reasons arguments ignite. First, firing. It's all you arrows at the other person. Why are you always like this? How come you never? As soon as those words come out, the other person's brain goes into defense mode. Understanding disappears, and the urge to strike back takes over. Second, emotions explode first, and reason retreats. When anger rises, logic stops working, prefrontal activity drops, rational thinking vanishes, and only emotional reactions remain. Third, we believe that winning will feel good. I'm right. That mindset makes us eager to defeat the other person they counterattack. And in the end, no matter who wins, what remains is regret. A communication research team in the United States ran an experiment. They had couples and friends hold conversations. Some were normal, others included blaming language. They then scanned participants' brains with fMRI. The results, when people heard blame, prefrontal activity sharply declined. In simple terms, once you blame, the other person loses the ability to understand and shifts into fight mode. Real life looks similar. Amy nagged her husband every day. "Why can't you ever understand plain English? Why do you never clean up when I ask?" At first he stayed quiet, but one day he finally shot back. "Just take care of it yourself." From then on, they stopped talking. Communication dwindled. The gap widened. The key to conflict isn't the content. It's the tone and mindset you lead with. That often decides the win or loss right there. So how do we say what needs to be said without starting a fight? There's only one answer: understanding. Not to prove you're right, but to understand the other person and let your own heart be understood. More importantly, understand yourself first. When you see clearly why you're saying something and where your emotions come from, your words soften and conflict steps aside. That is the essence of no conflict communication. Next, I'll show you how to turn understanding into language through 4 concrete methods to gradually dissolve arguments in your conversations. Communication method 1. End with recognition. 1 sentence can decide whether a conversation becomes a fight or leads to understanding. The secret is simple. No matter what you say, end with recognition. Why? Because people only lower their guard and open up when they feel understood and respected. You can say 100 right things, but if there's no recognition, what they hear is "you're denying me." The result, defensiveness, Cold War's arguments. But if you add recognition at the end, everything changes. Even if your wording isn't perfect, a single line like, "I know you're working hard too," can soften emotions and reopen listening. Emily had long been upset that her husband often came home late. One day she snapped, "Why are you always so late? Do you know how hard it is to wait for you?" He shot back, "You think I want this?" They went cold. Days later, Emily tried a different way. "I know work is intense for you, but from my side I feel a bit let down. Could you try to come back earlier next time?" The result was completely different. He didn't get angry, he even brought home flowers. The difference was that one line of recognition. Mencia said, "Don't rush to change others, learn their hearts first." People change willingly only when they feel respected. Forcing never works. Real change grows from understanding and acknowledgement. Tree lines like, "This left me a little disappointed, but I know you meant well." Or, "I understand your effort, but my perspective wasn't included, so I felt a bit hurt." That isn't blame. It blends facts, understanding, and respect, making it hard for the other person to push back. Remember, ending with criticism leaves resentment. Ending with recognition leaves gratitude. When you learn to close with recognition, conversation stops being a battleground and becomes a chance to draw closer. Communication method 2. The "I message when people are angry." Most start with you. "Why are you like this?" You always do this. The moment you do, the other person's ears close and walls go up. Blame triggers the brain's defensive instinct. Understanding switches off, and the only thought left is, how do I fight back? If you want to speak without starting a fight, use the I message. Don't say, "This is all your fault." Shift to, "I feel." Make your feelings the subject and keep the focus on your experience. Schopenhauer said, when telling the truth, your words can be sharp like a blade. But the blade needs a soft handle. That soft handle is wrapping truth in personal feeling. If your husband forgot a date, don't say, "Why are you never on time? You disappointed me again." That detonates conflict tree. Maybe my expectations were high today. When you forgot our plan, I felt really let down. Now the other person doesn't rush to resist. They feel sorry and want to make it right. A Harvard University experiment supports this. In conflict scenarios, when people used I as the subject, the listener's defensive reaction dropped by more than half, and conversations lasted twice as long. Reason: the listener doesn't feel attacked, they realize, "So you were really hurt." To go deeper. Try, "You might not know why I'm this upset, but today I just want to share what's on my heart." There's no blame, so it's easier to hear, and it nudges them to reflect. Have I been too self-centered? If you need a little edge, say, "I'm not saying this to accuse you. I want you to understand my feelings. Being understood matters more to me than being right." Please remember, when you try to point out someone's mistake, the fight begins. When you reveal your feelings, the other person shifts from defense to empathy. Blame makes people shrink back. Sincere expression opens the heart. Communication method 3. End with a question if you want conversations to keep flowing instead of stalling. There's a simple, almost magical move. End with a question. We've all met people who seem to listen and ask for input, but after a long monologue they finish with, "So just do it my way." How do you feel? Likely, you just wanted to talk. You didn't care what I thought, you already decided. That sense of powerlessness shuts people down. Outwardly we nod, inwardly we close the door. From then on, whatever they say, we think, "Fine, you're the genius." The conversation exists in form, but it's already over. Why? Because bulldozing your conclusion isn't communication. It's a memo. Remember, no matter how right you are, if you end with a period, you close the conversation. If you end with a question mark, the wall becomes a door. Socrates said, "Questions awaken the soul." Questions invite the other person to think and to join as a co-owner of the dialogue. They shift from being told to comply to choosing to act. So add a question at the end. "This is how I see it. What do you think? An Oxford University team tested this in meetings. Leaders were told not to issue directives or final conclusions, but to close with questions like, "Here's my take. What are your thoughts? What might I be missing? My understanding may be incomplete. Any different views?" If this were yours to handle, what would you do? Results were striking. Total participation doubled, and even usually silent members spoke up. Post-meeting surveys showed 80% felt respected. Why a question turns a passive listener into an invited partner. Always remember, end with a period and talk stops. End with a question mark and the relationship opens. A question tosses the ball to them. When the ending isn't, "I'll decide," but "How do you see it?" The talk shifts from preaching to searching together communication. Method 4, the timing gap strategy. Every message has its moment. When emotions flare, words become blades, they wound others and leave you with regret. Wise people choose silence in that instant. That's the timing gap strategy. Why do this? Think about what happens when you speak while your anger is peaking. Most of the time, your words cut like knives, leaving deep wounds that later stab you back as regret. We believe, saying it now will feel so good, but that rush lasts a moment. What follows is remorse. Schopenhauer noted, words spoken in heated emotion become arrows you can't recall, and they end up hurting you. Neuroscience agrees. When emotions run high, prefrontal rational functions drop sharply. In anger, logical thinking shuts down and primitive attack responses take over. So truly wise people keep quiet at peak heat and speak once they're calm. Studies show intense emotion often needs about 20 minutes to subside. Get through that window, and your tone changes completely. How to use the timing gap. When I'm this emotional, I probably won't say it well. Let me cool down and then talk. Let's pause and come back when we've both settled. I'm afraid I'll say something hurtful right now. Could you give me a little time? These lines diffuse an explosion and give both sides room to breathe. When you resume, even the same message sounds gentler and is easier to accept. The timing gap isn't avoidance. It's emotional self-control. Ask yourself, will speaking now make me regret it? Am I solving a problem or venting? If I wait 20 minutes, will I say it better? A brief pause clarifies the landscape. Then your words become communication, not combat. 3 things you must not say, even if you master the 4 techniques above. These 3 lines can still wreck a relationship instantly. Avoid them. You're always late. You're always like this. This erases all past effort and positives. What you meant as a single critique becomes total negation, triggering defensiveness. I told you I was right. It sounds factual, but what they hear is, so you were wrong. Even the best point dies here. The conversation ends and rebuttal begins. Whatever, do what you want. A white flag in conversation, refusal to engage. They feel shut out, and the bond cracks. 3 things you should say, short but powerful lines that diffuse tension and repair connection. That makes sense. Even if you don't fully agree yet. This signals respect and lowers defenses. I'm not perfect either. Before offering a view, preface it. I'm not necessarily right. Let me share my take and hear yours. This reframes the exchange as collaboration, not combat. I'll coordinate better next time. Instead of you always, try, I'll coordinate better next time. It conveys goodwill, making them more willing to cooperate and improve. Real relationships aren't sustained by fancy words, but by small daily phrases filled with respect and care. Everything we covered boils down to one thing. Turn understanding into language. Affirm first, then express. Use. iMessages end with a question. Use the timing gap. Remember the 3 never-say lines are shortcuts to destruction. The 3 must-say lines are small miracles of repair. A single sentence can heal or hurt. When you choose words with awareness, every sentence can become a key that opens hearts and brings warmth. Keep this in mind. Start gently. Be sincere in the middle and end warmly. Do these 3, and you'll say what you need to say without fighting, and your relationships will grow deeper and stronger. How do you feel after hearing this? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Your story might become someone else's strength. If today's content helped you, please share this video with someone important to you, and remember to like and subscribe so more people can join us in finding understanding and warmth. This is HL Whispers. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.